welcome to the City of Bridges podcast. My name is Justin Masak, and I am here with my panel. This is Randy.
Hi.
Scout.
Hi.
And Allie.
Hello.
Thank you for joining me here tonight, everyone. We are here to talk about things that are going on in our world. But first, I don't want to talk about what is. I want to talk about what could be. So this is a segment I'm calling We Are the Carpenters. And the goal here is to build the perfect school. The best way to build a perfect school, if you don't know, is to have a podcast and then ask everybody what the perfect school is. So every week we are going to return to this school and we're going to talk about a different aspect of it. So this week, what I want to talk about, first we got to buy some real estate. We got to buy some land somewhere. And so I want to ask you, if you had a dream school, where would be your ideal location, your dream location for that school?
It has to be on Earth, right?
We'll say Earth.
Okay.
If you have a good reason to say, let's have a school on Saturn.
Okay. Now I'm tempted to say that I want a school on Saturn.
We already talked about this with Adam and learning to learn,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like we designed our school where we wanted to be, and what I said was I've always wanted to go to a school in a tree house.
In a tree house.
Yes, kind of like the Ewoks, like their kind of like place, but like just in the trees, and you don't go onto the ground, and like you live there. That's where I would have it.
I would love that. Like, too much. Climbing trees is my passion.
What do you think, like, why a treehouse? What makes a treehouse so engaging?
I don't know. I feel like you have to. It's like more interactive, so like it's more fun. Like you would cross a bridge to get to your next class.
Yeah.
And also just like you're outside for the majority of the time, and you don't feel like enclosed in one space.
Mm-hmm.
I've always wanted to go to school in a treehouse.
Awesome. Randy, what do you think? Where's your dream school at?
It's right here, Justin. I don't know. I love the treehouse school idea because there's something very. There's also like, I don't know, like if you're able to look out over the vista of the forest and maybe you climb up to the top of the canopy and you know, suddenly my treehouse is in like the Amazon, I guess. Mm-hmm. My treehouse
like
school.
Like a big multi-layer treehouse.
Yeah. Or the Ewoks, I think, is a great vision, and you look out over and you see the planet because Endor's a moon and so on and so forth. So that all sounds great. Mm-hmm. I have a boat school idea that involves school on a boat that goes from Pittsburgh to New Orleans on the rivers.
Yeah.
But I think for me, having a school that has space for students to do stuff, mm-hmm. like outdoor space to have tree houses and gardens and chickens and raise seals or whatever,
Yes.
and to build exactly
Yes.
Seal school, and then also to have like right now we're in this pandemic and we're outdoors, but to also have interior space that can feel like home for students, that is like comforting and positive and feels like a good place to spend time because we spend a lot of time at school. Mm-hmm.
So it should feel homey. It should give us like opportunities to like do stuff, whether that's building tree houses or raising seals.
Right.
And also on a boat.
It could be on a boat.
Cool.
Yeah. Or a blimp.
Mm-hmm.
I just love the idea.
Airship
I think
school.
Airship school. Blimp school. I think it's so great to get, some of the most valuable learning experiences in my life have involved like seeing new places and like meeting new people and engaging with new cultures. And so if there was a way to do that, I also read this article about some guy who wants to put an asteroid in orbit and hang a skyscraper from it. Whoa. Part of the idea being that then you move the asteroid and the skyscraper you could like, I have a lunch meeting in Shanghai. I'll just take the whole building. So if we had asteroid school, which is sort of like Saturn space Ewok school, mm-hmm. But I think the kernel of that is being in a place where you can engage with other cultures. And it's this debate I've had with City of Bridges where, like, do we buy a farm? I'm not saying we're necessarily doing this, but in the early City of Bridges phases before it existed, like, we were looking at rural land outside of the city. And we were like, oh, we have, it's like a farm school. But the thing that's missing is the ability to, like, engage with the surrounding community when the surrounding community is like trees and fields. And you can certainly engage in a way with those, but it's different. And I think being able to, like, have the internships and have the practitioners come in and, be able to engage with a larger community is so important. Which you could do on a boat. I mean, that's why boat school or blimp school or asteroid skyscraper school is cool. Because if we're like, oh, we're learning about, North Africa, we not so much boat school, I guess sort of, but like blimp school or asteroid school, we can actually go there.
Go to North Africa.
That sounds amazing.
Wouldn't that be great?
Like a traveling school on wheels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gyrocopter school.
Yeah. I mean, maybe there's a way that we could, like, because we were talking about, for boat school, you're also talking about, like, farm barge school.
Yeah.
Making, like, farms on barges. And so maybe we can make a forest on a boat. It'd have to be a pretty big boat.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is a treehouse still a treehouse if it's in the middle of the ocean?
Yeah.
If it's on a tree.
If it's on a tree,
Yeah.
If it's on a tree?
Yeah. The defining characteristic is a tree.
Yeah,
Right.
it doesn't.
House.
It's not like tree not on a boathouse.
An earth treehouse.
An earth. Well, but you're still on Earth if you're on a boat in a tree in a house.
All these
This
layers.
is like a children's book, right? Okay, Allie and Scott, I'm going to pass it to you to make a final decision because we have a giant check in our hand. We got to go buy a plot of land somewhere for our ideal school. Where are we taking this check?
A boat with a tree.
There is this one like couple who made their own island out of recycled material and they can move it.
Mm-hmm.
What if we made our school on one of those recycled islands? We could have forests, we could have farms, we
Oh
could
my
have
gosh,
seals.
yeah, is it the place
Yes.
with like the water bottles that
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna go there. It's near
It's so-
Mexico, I think,
It's
right?
so cool. We can move it to
Yeah.
travel.
Yeah.
It'd be like a boat.
And we call it Louisiana.
Yes!
Yeah.
Yes!
For listeners, that was a plug for a video that you can find on our YouTube channel for Lucy's Utopia demonstration where she talks about a similar situation of floating Louisiana into the ocean.
It's a one-woman show. It was great.
Should be on Broadway.
Awesome. So we're taking our check. We're going to go to Recycle Island Factory and build our school on a floating recycled island, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Awesome.
with
That
a
sounds
tree. You have to remember the tree in the house, the tree house.
With the treehouse. And we'll build,
Yeah.
we'll build a treehouse on top of it, too.
Yeah.
Awesome. Excellent. Thank you. So let's anchor that into our dreams and into our future realities. But returning back to current life, we're going to build a school here, and we're going to have to run the school. We run our school.
We
too.
already
So
have-
we can just talk about it
we already have a school.
in the context of our school here. So I want to talk to you about decisions that schools have to make. And policies that they have to form and conversations that they have to have. So this week what I want to talk to you about, because we're in the middle of a very political time. We're right in the middle of an election. They're literally counting the votes as we're recording this podcast. But I want to talk to you about teachers promoting political messages in their schools. So the conversation that I want to have is, where do you think the lines should be in terms of what teachers should be able to say about candidates they support? Mostly to students. We can talk about teacher to teachers, but that's just like a professional relationship. But teachers have a special role in the lives of, like, they have to tell students, they have to, like, guide students into gaining an understanding of the world. So what do you think the line should be, or the guidelines should be for teachers talking to students about political topics?
I mean, it really depends on how big the school is, because we have a fairly small school here and we all kind of have like similar views to like with politics and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a really big school, then it can kind of be like scary, and you can't talk as much about your own personal opinions because anyone in that school might have a different opinion.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So size is like a factor in these conversations.
I mean, I agree with Scout. I feel like if you're in a school where like everyone's opinions can be heard, like ours, since we have such a small group, I feel like it's easier to have that conversation. And I also feel like as long as no one is forcing their opinion on people, no one's like, you have to choose this candidate for these reasons. I don't care anything else. These reasons are why you choose this candidate, why you support this person. And more like have it be like oh, this is why I support them. Like, I understand if you don't, but this is why I do. Just like being very open about like different opinions and like accepting that people like don't share the same views.
Yeah. So like we can have conversations, but we can't like force views on people. Randy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I struggle with it honestly, because like I think as most of you know, like I have pretty strong opinions about the way that I think a sort of humane and kind society would be. And at the same time, I also recognize that the like teacher-student relationship is a funny relationship. Like we can laugh and we can sing songs and like crawl through table or chair legs as parts of obstacle courses and things like that. But that there's like at the end of the day, you are a student, you are students who are here to like learn things and get launched into your glorious futures. And our role as teachers is to like create the conditions to like facilitate that happening. And so there's as like egalitarian, like the, you know, just like, even at this school, the fact that you call us all by our first names, you know, like it's a much flatter sort of hierarchy than in many schools. But at the end of the day, like we still have a teacher role and you still have a student role. And so I worry about being like, oh, you know, these are my political opinions or these are this, because I think I wouldn't want to. It's hard. I wouldn't want to like shape your views directly, right? But at the same time, I also am explicit in that, like, I think racism is bad, right? And I do want to. Not that I'm saying either of you need shaping in that area. Scout, we need to talk. But like, there are things that I believe the role of like schools are to say, like, racism is bad, and let's help you figure out, you know, ways that you can be anti-racist in your life as we try to be anti-racist in our life. So it's this fine line between that and being like, oh, I think you should vote for so and so. So yeah, it's something that I struggle with.
Yeah.
On a daily basis, probably.
Yeah, and let me get a little dicier. Let me make the two of you struggle a little more.
Sweet.
So we don't want to force opinions on anyone, right? So let's talk about what forcing opinions on people kind of feels like. So we have a school of about 30 students right now. And we all, I mean, and I can think of, you know, 30 individual students and where they lie on the political spectrum. It's all very progressive, liberal leaning. I mean, we're a progressive school, so that makes sense. But let's say that we get a 31st student who doesn't share those viewpoints. Do you feel like they would feel pressure to share the opinions of the rest of the school when they come in?
Yes, I do, because, you know, they're outnumbered by a lot, by 30. And, like, we were such a progressive school that, like, I think that they would at least struggle with, like, I don't really belong here.
Allie, you seem deep in thought.
I'm thinking. I mean, I would hope that they wouldn't feel like that, because I think it's important to be like strong in what you believe in. I mean, I've mentioned this before, like, as someone who's religious, I, like, never want to, like, put someone in a space where, like, okay, I have to believe in God. But I try to create a space where it's like, okay, like, here's what I believe, like, I love you no matter what, but, like, I understand that you don't do that, like, you don't believe in that. I understand that you, like, we have different views on how things work, and I'm never going to tell you that you're wrong, because at the end of the day, like, they're just opinions, and opinions aren't facts. But, like, if someone were to come in and they're like, we need to divide races for some odd reason, I would be like, no, that's not good. And I would talk to them and be like, hey, here's why we shouldn't do that. If they still believe that, I think that it's a matter, like, it's their choice to either stay at the school or leave the school. But, I really don't believe in, like, dividing people based on what they believe in, because I think at the end of the day, we're all supposed to come together and support each other.
I think that's a really good point, Allie. Like, I don't happen to be religious, and my family isn't, but, like, I mean, at least I view us as pretty good friends, and, like, and, like, it's, like, kind of, like, a great thing that, like, it's just what you believe in, it's just your opinion, but we're all still humans.
Right.
I mean, hopefully.
Yeah. As far as you know.
Yeah. I mean, I think.
Do you have something you want to tell us?
If one of the four of us in this room isn't human,
I think we might have to.
No, can I jump in? Because I think that sentiment is so heartening to me as, like, someone who started this school, because at the end of the day, like, I completely agree with you, Allie, that we, like, if we can love each other as human beings, that, hopefully we can see or have, like, mutual respect for the differing viewpoints that we bring. They're like lines, as you mentioned, that we draw, and I think for me it's like if we have a foundation of sort of love for each other in our community, if someone has views that are, like, inherently harmful or unloving, if they're like then, like, that's different, but different viewpoints, I would hope that we can all have that sort of mutual respect for each other.
So how does the school incorporate this into their policies? So the example that I want to use, because, like, I think it's pretty it's pretty easy to say, like, we don't tolerate racism in our school, we don't tolerate violence in our school. So let's say that we have a teacher who joins our school and says that they don't like the cut of Joe Biden's jib. And they say, for whatever reason, they distrust Joe Biden. They want to vote for Trump. Are they able to tell students, I think you should vote for Trump?
I don't think you should tell anyone you think you should vote for that person.
Okay.
I think it should be more of, like I said before, like, hey, this is what I believe. I'm not forcing this on you, but, like, if you would like to listen to me, like, that'd be great.
So she'd be able to say, I'm voting for Trump. She'd be able to tell students, like, I like Trump. These are the reasons why. This is why I'm voting for him.
Yeah, you might get a little bit backlash at this school.
Yeah, but they should be able to voice their opinion. I mean, yeah, they would probably get a little bit of backlash, but as long as they're not, like, outright saying, I think you should vote for Trump, you should vote for Trump, then, I mean, I guess it would be, like, fine. But still, that's where it gets, like, rocky, because, like, I think that Randy should be able to voice his opinions about political stuff, but I wouldn't want that person voicing their opinion. So, like, and I just, like, now realize that that's probably, like, not great of me to, like, think that way.
Maybe. I mean, I could also make the argument that saying that you're voting for Trump could be a harmful thing. Like, if we are promoting a racist person or somebody who is, encouraging violence, like, on his Twitter feed, which we'll talk about later, but is that promoting violence in your school?
Not directly, but not, like, I don't think that would be like their purpose is to promote violence,
Mm-hmm.
but I do think that like if you look deep into it, then yeah, at least a little bit, then it is. I mean, I don't think that any like I think we're all like developed enough to like have our own opinions.
Okay.
And I don't think that a teacher coming in here and saying, "Hey, Trump is good," I don't think that would really make anybody be like, "Oh, that means that Trump is good."
Yeah.
Well, that undoes everything I've believed about myself. Oh,
Yeah.
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 What am I
Justin
saying?
said so. And he might not even be human.
Cool. So let's say for our for the policy in our school, it sounds like teachers are okay voicing their political beliefs, as long as they're not encouraging other people to share those beliefs
Or putting someone in harm's way.
or putting someone in harm's way. As the head of school, Randy, do you feel that's kosher?
Ethically, maybe. Legally, I'm not sure that it's kosher.
Okay.
Because we do, I mean, there are laws and there are sort of Supreme Court rulings out there around what teachers are able to say and sort of in their professional roles. Because, again, and this is not my language, this is the language of the Supreme Court, that you're a captive audience, right? In the sense that if I'm out on the street on a Thursday at 5:30 and I see Scout walking by and I'm like, Scout, you should do this voting thing. You should most definitely, when you are old enough to vote, you should vote for this person and so on and so forth. That's fine. You can be like, whatever, Randy, I'm going to go get a milkshake because you're not a captive audience. But in the professional capacity, like we have compulsory school laws in this country so that you have to go to school. Even if it's homeschool, it's still school. And since you're here, then the Supreme Court has said that, you as students are a captive audience and that we can't sort of professionally express our political views, which I can understand. I think it's tricky because like the two of you, and it's true of, our student body in general, like are thinking about these things and have an awareness much more so than I did when I was, 13, 14, 15 years old, like an awareness of the world around them. And so I think have already formed thoughts and opinions about things, but that's not true of every high school student.
Right.
And it's that tricky thing that and it's so hard for me to say, should a policy, like where do you set your policies? Do you set them at the lowest risk or the highest risk level to say, oh, well, Scout and Allie, their heads are screwed on straight and they're paying attention to the world so we can debate these things. Or do you say, Frankie Jones, who's not a real student, listeners, who's super influenceable and isn't thinking about these things. So if I said, Frankie, I think you really should vote for this person, Frankie would probably be like, sure, Randy. Do you set your policies there?
Yeah.
I don't know.
But would Frankie be like that? Just automatic? What if their parents have a different opinion? Frankie's parents have it seems like, I'm sure that you might be able to sway Frankie's opinion a little bit, but it doesn't see, it's like putting political signs in your yard. It's you're not going to change anyone's mind. You're just going to make them mad or make them agree with you. And it's you might be able to persuade Frankie by saying vote for this person, but I still don't think that even though you're older than Frankie, I'm guessing, then I don't think that you're gonna completely 100. They still have a brain and they still have their own opinions.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a question of what's your role as a teacher in Frankie's life. I personally view teachers as I'm not just here to deliver academic content to you, but as a positive role model, an adult role model in your life, and I want to live into that role. I think a part of that is building a set of beliefs and kind of encouraging a set of beliefs that hey, don't hurt others, and have empathy for like the position of others, and like I would want the ability to embody those beliefs in a way that I hope that like a student would see and grow to like think about and appreciate. Frankie, who has not yet developed an independent identity, I feel like would be kind of at like they're still being formed, and I think teachers play a role in forming Frankie a little bit, at least a little bit.
Yeah. What's interesting, like, so Allie, to come back to your example about being a religious person, right? So I was a religion major, and there's the great quote from the Bible about faith, hope, and love, and the greatest of these is love, right? And I think like values of faith, hope, and love are universal. So you can approach them from a Christian perspective, and your faith, hope, and love can be, grounded in that tradition. You can have faith, hope, and love grounded in a non-religious, agnostic, or atheist tradition. You can have faith, hope, and love grounded in a Muslim tradition, in a Buddhist tradition, whatever it happens to be. But there's a difference between saying, like, we at this school believe in faith in something, like that you have it doesn't have to be a higher power, but that you could have faith in community, or faith in democracy, or faith in collaboration, like whatever it happens to be, hope in your future, and love, right. Love for a higher power, love for each other, whatever it happens to be. There's a difference between like espousing values and then like specific policy points, I guess, if that makes I think I think this law or that law is a good law or a bad law, particularly not like historical ones. I'm thinking this through. I haven't thought this through yet. Not historical ones. Like I think we thinking.
I encourage thinking it through and talking it through.
Yeah.
Thinking out loud.
Thinking out loud. Like historical things, I think you can absolutely, like we could talk about the Dred Scott decision and say, what are my personal feelings on this thing, but on current sort of political issues or issues. And I don't think it's just politics. I think it's things. I don't mean to and we can cut this out, Scout, if this doesn't jive with you. But like you're a vegan, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm a vegetarian, and I have a whole lot of respect for that choice that you have made. But I wouldn't push my vegetarianism on a student who's a meat eater, right?
Yeah.
Or an omnivore. To be fair, no one is purely eating meat that I'm aware of.
I'm sure someone's talking about
So that strikes me as I would certainly speak to my values of loving and caring for all living things. Mm-hmm. And I would be like, hey, I believe that caring for all living things, regardless of their of the number of feet upon which they walk, is a value that matters to me. But I wouldn't say, and therefore, you should be a vegetarian.
Yeah, that kind of ties into the whole thing that we were talking about. The whole thing that we're talking about, you can voice your opinion and be like, I'm vegan because that's what I have chose to do, but I will not judge anyone who is not vegan because I don't want to be that person.
Right.
I think what the most important things a school can do is just create a judgment-free zone, which is really hard to do, especially in a big school.
Yeah.
The school I was at last was extremely judgmental. It was if you don't share the same opinion as everyone else, you're canceled pretty much.
Yeah.
And that was just not a good environment. But this school is just I've never felt anyone judging me. I've never had someone be oh, you're this, haha, stupid.
Yeah.
But it's more oh, okay, I don't exactly share the same opinions as you, but we're still cool. And I feel that's really important because I think schools really want students to grow into their themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And not into an already living being. And I think that's one job for teachers is to just hold up. I get most of my like we talk about politics a lot at school.
Mm-hmm.
I talk about it at home too. So those are like where I get my politics. Also like online and like stuff like that. But at the end of the day, like my political views are like truly my own. Like yes, I understand what's happening in the world, but like at the end of the day, like they're my thoughts. Like no, like I have different views than my parents. I have different views from you guys.
Right.
They're influenced, but like they're mine. And I think that it's like okay to have that conversation. I feel like it's needed because there are many kids out there who are like same views as their parents, same views as their teachers,
Right.
And don't like get different opinions. Like I talk to my friends about politics. Like we share different views, but we're still friends.
Right.
So just like creating a judgment-free zone where it's like everyone's allowed to have their own opinions.
Yeah, it sounds like there's like so there's like kind of two steps where like the first step is you're like collecting information from like your belief structure, like you know, I think the values of like love and faith and hope are like important values, and then there's like a second step of like baking that into a cake of an issue. So it's like I believe like I am also a vegetarian. I'm a vegetarian because I believe that embodies the quality of love. You take that step of collecting stuff from talking to your family, talking to your friends, but that second step that we're saying, like not pushing that onto others, like forcing them into this space, giving them the opportunity to talk about those values with you, but then supporting them in whatever decision that they're making in terms of turning that into a stance.
Because they might view love in their own separate, different ways, and you don't want to, you don't want to push it on to them. Like, this is how you love animals. Like I see what you're saying.
Awesome. Speaking of love, Donald Trump. Donald Trump tweeted last Monday. That was a joke. This has nothing to do with love.
Yeah, obviously.
He tweeted last Monday that COVID-19 media coverage should be an election law violation. So I have the tweet here, and I'll read it. So he tweets, "We have made tremendous progress with the China virus, but the fake news refuses to talk about it this close to the election. COVID is being used by them in total coordination in order to change our great early election numbers. Should be an election law violation." I also want to clarify, we don't call it the China virus at this school.
No.
I'm reading Donald Trump's words there. So, here's the conversation I want to have. Should there be restrictions on what the media is able to publish during a campaign?
No.
So the media should be able to publish whatever they want during a campaign?
I mean...
So like on a lot of social media right now there's fact checks. Like on Instagram, and I only have Instagram, TikTok too. It's like, okay, we'll get real information from the CDC about coronavirus. Or like get real information about the elections from like this, I don't know exactly which one, but this reliable news source. And I feel like that's important. I mean, I feel like we have freedom of speech. Anyone's able to put whatever they want out there, unfortunately. But I feel like just having like the fact checks is like very important to be like, oh, okay, maybe I should check this.
Yeah, don't say fake stuff. But was that what he was trying to say?
I mean, it's fake news.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears and talk about not the media, but the candidates. Should there be limits on what the candidates are able to say during a campaign?
I don't think you like if we as a country say that freedom of speech is a like a foundational right from the First Amendment. I don't think we can say that just because you're running for office somehow that First Amendment right doesn't apply to you. The challenge with the First Amendment is the First Amendment offers no protection against the consequences of your speech, right? So if you say a bunch of false things, then in theory, people should be like, oh, that's false. I'm not going to vote for you. Whether that theory bears out, I think, is up for debate, and it is. But I think prohibiting free speech from the front end, runs against one of the sort of foundational values of our country.
Okay.
So that's where I stand on it.
I feel like it's more like you can't really control what someone says. I feel like it's more of like a moral code where it's like, okay, kind of like a mutual, like, we're not going to talk about certain things. I'm not going to hit you on this, you're not going to hit me on that. But like betrayal is a thing. But I mean, I don't think it's okay. He still did it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you should not be allowed to like talk about someone's family.
Okay.
But I also like. I feel like you can't like you definitely like can't control what someone says, especially Donald Trump. Like there's no controlling him. But I don't think you should like I don't know. I feel like it's more like it says something about your character if you're like willing to do that. If you're like, this is how I'm going to take you down by talking about your dead son.
Right.
That's just like so mean, and I don't know who would want that for president.
Yeah, and like I think that like you said, like Donald Trump is like a toddler that needs a leash but doesn't have one. I think that
one of those backpack leashes,
Yeah.
the animal one.
Yeah, he needs one, but he doesn't have one. I think that like there's not really any controlling like what he's going to say, but I think that him saying like things that are like totally not okay, not something that most people would say during something that like is not personal, or it's not supposed to be at least. I think that you can look at that and be like, I don't want to vote for him anymore, or at all, even in the first place. But like, I don't think that like, especially if it's like live or anything, there's not like anything that you can really do. I mean, they like installed the mute buttons and stuff.
Right.
Which hasn't had to been done before. But I think that you can take it, and I think you can look at it and be like, wow, I don't want this toddler running my country anymore.
You can't censor what people say, unfortunately. But I think it's just important to understand how and why people are saying it.
Yeah, like there is some sort of like responsibility from the listener, or like a duty of the listener to say like, why does he use the words China virus? Like, what is he trying to make me feel?
Because they're not just words.
Right.
They have a meaning.
Right.
And I think that's like, to come back to where we started.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the roles of a school, right? Is to help people, young people, as they grow into old people, right, into adulthood. It's just you're young, and then you graduate from high school, and then you're just old. That's it.
You're just an old man.
Just an old man. Yeah.
What happened?
That's why geriatric and graduation both start with a G. But to help like build those critical thinking skills and those experiences, so that you go out into the world and are able to evaluate what is true and what isn't true, and find sources of fact, and be able to fact check and things like that. Because we, like, even in this conversation, we're like, ha ha ha, China virus, and it is because we as a group of four people are like have those abilities to fact check and not take everything we hear for granted. And so, because if everyone possessed that, it's not just a set of skills, it's also like a tendency and an outlook, and I'm not going to take anything for granted. I'm going to try to fact check and find out the information and critically think about the information that I receive.
Right.
From both sides.
Mm-hmm.
We are currently talking about one situation, but from any form. So again, I just keep the vegetarianism, veganism thing as a great sort of, for some people, less politically intense way to look at this, right? That there is lots of information about the benefits of being vegetarian, eating a plant-based diet. Some of it is dubious. Some of it is false.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it is true. And so to have the sort of skill and the orientation to say, I am hearing this thing and it supports the existing worldview that I might have. How can I verify if it's true or not? I think, fits in all of these situations.
Awesome. Well, I have some bad news, and that is that our time here is almost over.
Sad.
But before we do, we have a new panel that's going to come in next week, and we have to pass the baton to them as they come in. So here's how we're going to do it. Not to make this entire podcast about Donald Trump. I feel a little guilty about that. But we are in the middle of an election.
A really big one.
A really big one.
Yeah, this is, if there's ever going to be a podcast episode that just talked about Donald Trump, it
Yeah.
seems
This
like
is
it
the
would be
one.
this one.
Yeah.
This is our last chance. We can never talk about Donald Trump again after this.
I mean, he's made things interesting.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like the last 4 years would have been really, really boring.
I would have taken boring.
Yeah, same.
I would have too.
So, we're in the middle of an election. They are counting the votes as we speak.
Ugh, stress.
This time next week, I am going to go to Donald Trump's Twitter account, and I'm going to look at his latest tweet. I need everyone to predict how many capital letters will be in that tweet.
Wait, I need to look at the last one.
The most recent tweet?
The most recent tweet. So I'm going to go down the line. I should have had everybody write this down beforehand, but I'm going to go on the honor system. Don't manipulate your predictions based on other people. So I think I'm going to say 10. There will be 10 capital letters in this latest tweet. Randy, what's your prediction?
I say 0.
Ooh, okay. 0.
Could be just a picture.
Not even going to start a sentence with a capital letter. Scott, what's your prediction?
I'm gonna say 4.
All right. And Allie?
I'm gonna say all of them.
All of them. So how many letters is that?
Every letter.
Every letter of the
How many? I need to know.
Is he just,
How many
is this
letters
tweet
in
just
the
gonna be the
alphabet?
alphabet? All the capital
Just
letters.
the capital alphabet.
I want to say like 30 something.
30.
Something.
We need it to be
I need-
specific, Allie.
31.
31. Allie goes for the high prediction. 31. Awesome.
I feel stupid that
so,
my answer is 4 now.
we have some business at the end of the podcast. Somebody is going to, and this is how like the format will work. Next week, based on the results of this, whoever is closest is going to get the honor of awarding star panelists and appreciating something that they said. Whoever is furthest is going to get the terrible job of telling everyone that the podcast is over and it's time to go home. This week we can't do that because nobody passed the baton to us because we're the ones who are starting it. Thank you to everyone who's starting this episode with me.
Yay.
So the way that we're going to decide it is based on how full everyone's heart is. So Allie, how full is your heart?
Half?
Half full.
Or half empty.
Scout, how full's your heart?
No, this is a really weird question. There's so many layers. I feel like I'm looking too deep into this. I guess like 3/4.
Alright, Scout's heart is 3/4 full. Randy, how full's your heart?
Wicked full.
Wicked full. Awesome. Alright, well, Randy, as the fullest heart, you are going to get the honor of awarding star panelists and appreciating something that they said. Allie, as the one with the emptiest heart, the half-empty heart, you were going to get the terrible job of telling everyone that it is time to go home and that the podcast is over. And you can do that in any way that you want.
Okay.
Before we do that, though, I have some business to attend to. And that is to tell everyone who we are. So this is a podcast by a high school, City of Bridges High School in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We're a high school dedicated to student agency and personalized real-world learning. If you're interested in learning more about us, you can go to cityofbridgeshighschool.org or check us out on Facebook and Instagram at City of Bridges HS. If you have anything to say about this episode, if you want to correct us on anything or you want to be a part of the discussion, you can leave a comment below. And if you really love us, we also have a Patreon at patreon.com/cityofbridges.
All one word.
all one word. So, with that being said, Randy, you get the honor of awarding star panelists and appreciating something they've said.
Yeah, I think all of you are amazing and wonderful, but the star panelist goes to Allie for bringing it back to love. Because that's what it's all about.
All right, Allie, you get the terrible job today.
Oh my goodness.
Telling everyone that the podcast is over and that it's time to go home.
Okay.
We encourage
Wait,
British
who's
accents.
going? Wait, who's going home? What does that even mean?
Everyone.
School's over.
Everyone's going
That's it, go home.
But
No
what
matter
if
what.
you're listening to the podcast at home? Then what do you do?
Then you go home harder.
You go Homer?
You go home. No, what does that even mean?
Go to bed. Sleepy time.
No.
What if you're asleep listening to it? And you wake up?
W. These are
You're
some
making this way too
edge
complicated,
cases.
sweetheart.
Yeah.
We're gonna,
I always make everything way too
we're gonna have to
complicated.
invite Scout back for a whole other and break this one down.
All right, Scout, deliver the news. Or sorry, Allie, deliver the news.
Okay. Hey guys, thanks for listening. It was so fun for you guys to hear us talk about our current state of the world. Hope you listen again. So sorry it's coming to an end. You'll miss us.
And go Homer!
Go Homer!
Homer! I mean, or home if you're not.
Or go sleepy time.